Well, welcome. My name is Julie Harper Wiley, and I am a member of the Hudson, Wisconsin Indivisible group, and so we thank you for coming tonight. This event is sponsored by Forward Action New Richmond Group, Polk Burnett Indivisible, Hudson Prairie Indivisible, of which I see people here, and our group, Hudson, Wisconsin Indivisible. This event is the result of a pop-up town hall meeting that Congressman Duffy held February 27th of this year with 12 hours notice. In spite of only 12 hours notice, we had about over 250 people here at Ready Randy's on a Monday morning in the cold to hear Congressman Duffy in an event that we felt was just too controlled. No follow-up questions were allowed. The event was just way too short, and it was intimidating because there were people from the St. Croix County deputies lining the walls, and the moderator was partisan. As a result of that, we decided that we would invite Congressman Duffy to an event that we could have more time to talk to him as concerned citizens and constituents. So this night was chosen. Congressman Duffy was invited to this event several times, starting on March 8th of this year. We spoke with Congressman Duffy's staffers Jesse Garza, Maggie Cronin, and we emailed and had various forms of communication with Congressman Duffy himself about this town hall tonight. Only last week were we informed by Maggie Cronin, Congressman Duffy's scheduler, that Congressman Duffy had a conflict tonight. He had previous plans. We asked what previous plans he had and could we attend wherever he was going to be tonight, and or that we would change the date for our event. We received no response. Yesterday, Congressman Duffy announced with a 17-hour notice that he was going to hold 3 pop-up town hall meetings. It was the day before, but he held the meetings yesterday. We again sent him a request to come by tonight. We said, "You're in the area, Congressman Duffy. Come to our event tonight." Again, no response. Further delay, I'm very proud to introduce to you Michael Sauer. Michael is a high school senior at St. Croix Central High School. He is a baseball player on the varsity high school team there. He's also a cross-country runner in the fall on the high school varsity team. Michael recently placed third in the state championship public speaking event, and he's going on to nationals to compete. He is the former Region 1 Vice President of Wisconsin Future Business Leaders of America. He is a determined and enthusiastic voter for the 2018 election. And most importantly, we are honored to have Michael and his friend Joseph Berg. They joined our Hudson, Wisconsin Indivisible group a couple of months ago. We have all been changed by their passion, their intelligence, and their presence with us old people. So without further ado, Michael Sauer.
Thank you, Julie. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's town hall. Thank you for your presence here at this most important moment in history. And we'd like to welcome our special guest, Sean Duffy. But wait, where's Sean? Dodgeball Duffy refused to come tonight. Dodgeball Duffy refused to participate in tonight's discussion. But we will go on without him. So our first topic tonight is Russia. At your town hall, Mr. Sean Duffy, on February 27, 2017, you stated that you have not seen any reason to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Trump's ties to Russia and any evidence of Russia's ties to the Trump campaign. Since then, FBI Director James Comey has confirmed that there was Russian interference in our election and that the Russian FBI is currently investigating that connection between Russia and Trump. And of course, we know that Michael Flynn was paid by the Russians, talked to the Russian ambassador, and lied. He lied about both. That Jeff Sessions, again, lied about meeting with the ambassador in the summer of 2016. That Paul Manafort, Carter Page, worked for the Russians close to Putin. That Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, failed to disclose meetings with Russian billionaires close to Putin. And we all know that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Nunes was forced to recuse himself because of his bizarre and dishonest behavior, demonstrating favoritism toward the White House and distracting from investigation into Russia's influence in the election and connections with the Trump campaign. So, Mr. Duffy, how much more evidence do you need? Will you finally co-sponsor the Protecting Our Democracy Act by supporting an independent investigation into Russian tampering with our election? And that's a very important point you made with respect to Turkey. I saw a tweet by one of my favorite economists, Ian Bremmer. He asked rhetorically if Ronald Reagan was to call Erdogan to congratulate him on contracting more authoritarian state. Would George Bush do that? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. No, they would not. They definitely would not. Moving on now to Trump's tax returns. In a letter dated on March 7, 2017, to Jim Green, you, Mr. Sean Duffy, said that Trump should release his tax returns, but not until his audits are completed. This is bogus. Nixon released his tax returns while under audit. Every president since Jimmy Carter has released their tax returns to show that the president has no conflicts of interest. Yet Trump refuses. I think the audit is an excuse to hide something about his financial dealings with whom he deals. Donald Trump has financial interests in the United States and a lot of other countries. We've also seen undeniable evidence that the Trump campaign maintained close ties to Russian governments and may be vulnerable to blackmail. That's scary. But he has not taken the necessary steps to eliminate such potential conflicts of interest. This all scares me. It should all scare you as well. One way we can reassure Americans is by releasing his tax returns, and yet he refuses. What is he hiding? Congress can unilaterally act, without Trump's permission, to obtain his returns, and they should. That's what we're calling on you to do, Mr. Sean Duffy.
Representative Duffy, why not start an impartial investigation into these allegations? I need to know that so I can sleep at night.
Representative Duffy, I'm CJ Long from Burnett County, Wisconsin. I drove down here to New Richmond because it was the closest meeting I could find. And I also received a letter from you, Representative Duffy, and it said that he needn't release his tax returns until his audits are completed. You also said that you did not believe that there was any reason that he was not releasing his tax returns. And first, you've already heard, and I already replied you, that that's pretty disingenuous to say that he needs to wait for the audits, since the IRS itself has said he doesn't need to wait for the audits. However, the idea that he has nothing to hide, and I think that's a big issue here. And it has been spoken to, but I want you to know, Representative Duffy, that it is a big deal. It is a big deal because there have been so many times that this president, I call him not my president, Trump, and his staff have stated, move on, nothing to see here, or have purposefully used something as a diversion from something more important that they don't want anyone to see. That this is a big deal. This should happen. His tax returns should be released and can be released to the Congress itself. And that's what should happen. You should be in support of that because that's what your constituents want, to clear this up and to move on to the bigger issue, which is his ties with other countries.
On to now the environment and the EPA.
My name is Sally Giese. I'm a constituent of Sean Duffy's. I live in the town of Hudson. And I would imagine, Representative Duffy, with your 8 children, that once in a while they get sick. And I imagine that you take them to the doctor to have them cured of whatever illness they have or you have. And you are relying on science from centuries ago to cure your children and give them the right medications, and so that they can go home and live healthy lives. Well, I can't understand why you can't rely on science that you don't rely on science when it comes to climate change. I have 3 grandchildren. I want them to live in a healthy environment throughout their lives. I will be gone before climate change really takes hold, but it is an effect that they will have to live with. And it breaks my heart to think that this planet will continue to go downhill and not provide a healthy environment for them. So I'm pleading with you, and I'm pleading with the Republicans in the Congress to take climate change seriously, to take the environmental regulations that we need seriously, and that we can provide a healthy planet for our future generations.
Congressman Duffy, you must stand up against big oil and endangering our environment any more than it is.
My name is Sandy Reevy. I'm from Hudson. So it's pretty apparent that a lot of people are concerned about climate change. That looks like kind of a no-brainer. The thing that bothers me is that Congressman Duffy, via his staffer, when we had a town hall, informal kind of session with his staff, told us that Sean Duffy, since he's not a climate scientist, feels that he's not able to say for sure if climate change exists, nor whether it's caused by human activity. And that, I just lose patience with that, because to me that's just code for climate change denier, but don't have the chutzpah to admit it. He's not a physician, but he takes positions on and passes legislation on healthcare. He's not a farmer, takes positions on, passes legislation on agriculture. He's not a teacher, passes legislation on education. You see where I'm going here? Climate change is real. It's human caused. We do not have time to waste. Period.
So, Congressman, I'm a young citizen concerned with the future status of our environment. According to the League of Conservation, you have a 3% lifetime score for protecting planet Earth. You refuse to budge in your position, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, and that the current trajectory is far from sustainable, and that clean forms of energy are economical. We can use those. Now I understand we are just beginning to feel these effects. But the fact of the matter today is that people in ensuing decades will be slammed by your inaction today. In 2050, for example, the cities of New Orleans and Miami will be largely flooded, if not wiped entirely off the face of the earth. This is preventable, but you choose no. Without a doubt, posterity, myself included, will look back on people like yourself with utter contempt. So please, get your action in order, or we will get you out. And now we move on to the budget. Trump's budget director, Mick Mulvaney, said that the Trump budget decisions had been based on whether you could ask a single mom in Detroit, this quote, a single mom in Detroit to pay for these programs. So first, defense. I'll run through a couple bullet points here. By increasing defense spending, financed with huge cuts in domestic programs, Republicans are telling us that they refuse to support programs that feed the elderly, educate our kids, and fund research into new cancer-fighting drugs. Do you guarantee that you won't vote to only increase the defense budget at the expense of American families, and that you won't vote to slash the programs that keep American families afloat? Now, I don't believe that the Trump budget increases our national security. When he's proposing devastating cuts to the State Department and U.S. aid, the folks who secured the peace and our military winning wars. That's why 120 generals and admirals signed a letter to insist that the funds for diplomacy and development must be paid alongside defense. Can you guarantee for us that you will not vote for a budget that undermines American security and slashes the State Department and other foreign aid?
Hi, my name is Celeste Cobrell. I live in the town of Hudson. Representative Duffy, you've said that your priorities include balancing the budget and reducing our national debt. In your most recent campaign, you said about the debt that our nation is on an unsustainable path, and you told us that you had the courage to make the tough spending choices. So the latest, most conservative, fact-based estimates of the cost to build Mr. Trump's big wall, not the cheap one from Home Depot, along the 2,000-mile U.S. border with Mexico run from $27 billion to $40 billion for just 1,000 miles. And the most recent estimates actually came out at about $70 billion. So, many people with deep knowledge of and experience with border security say that this will be money that is squandered because the wall won't work, plus immigration from Mexico since the Great Recession has been basically net zero or negative. More people are going back than coming in. So is it to keep them out or keep us in? I don't know, but that's another question. So I want to pledge from you, Representative Duffy, that you will protect our national budget and our debt from its endless ballooning by opposing at every opportunity you have any spending for this big boondoggle of a wall.
On the education department, I'm terribly concerned that Ms. DeVos will take all of the money allocated for education and put it into charter schools and the like. And that would be a terrible disservice to our children. I want the money to go to public education. That's what our country is based on. That's the foundation of our country.
So being a young student, high school student, I'll be going to college next year. And I find that the cost of college is increasing without end, honestly. And it's going to be extremely difficult for myself, my family. I know countless families, my friends as well, for them to be able to rake out the money to pay for their college education. So over the course of the campaign, I know candidate Bernie Sanders outlined a plan to eliminate college costs at $75 billion. And obviously, the criticism here is it costs too much. We can't have it. On to healthcare now. To quote Sean Duffy, the fact that we're repealing virtually all the mandates that can be repealed within the structure of this bill, to reconciliation with only 51 votes in the Senate, and repealing all taxes in Obamacare. The GOP plan, prior to the Affordable Care Act, insurers could discriminate against consumers based on current health conditions and medical history. Consumers with common ailments, including asthma and high blood pressure, were charged higher rates. People with histories of serious conditions, such as cancer or even heart attacks, they were denied coverage altogether in some instances. And in the wake of the congressional Republicans' failure to drum up support for their health care bill, the White House is still trying to negotiate a plan to repeal the Affordable Care Act altogether, trying to put that back on the table. And while the previous proposal would have already driven up health costs immensely and stripped millions, 24 million people, of coverage. To give you a sense of that, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, since it came into initiation, has enrolled about 20 million people. So not what it would get entirely rid of Obamacare and then some, if that wasn't enough already. Republicans are now discussing a provision that is effectively a sick tax on premiums. People with health conditions would be placed in risk pools and charged multiple more new plan coverage is preserved under the Affordable Care Act on guaranteed issues, meaning that insurers cannot deny coverage. Consumers with pre-existing conditions will be still priced out of the market altogether. Back to same old, same old.
Julie Harper Wiley, Town of Hudson. Congressman Duffy, you had the good fortune to avoid public outrage when Paul Ryan convinced President Trump to pull the ACHA, the Republican ACA Repeal Replace Bill. I might add this occurred over lunch at the White House of chicken, twice baked potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. It's always nice to know the menu our congressional leader is being treated to at the White House. You have voted party line for every bill introduced this year, and you would have voted for the ACHA, as you confirmed in your letter to me on April 4th, 2017, citing that the AHCA was designed to bring choice and competition back to the insurance market. Can you explain choice and competition to over 60,000 ACA recipients in this congressional district? You have the largest recipients of the ACA coverage of any congressional district in the state of Wisconsin.
One thing that really upsets me is pre-existing conditions. No one out here knows if something's going to happen to you. Well, I gave my son a kidney 20 years ago. He's still living, still surviving, can't have children, but adopted a son. So life is good, right? This can happen to any of us, and the sad part is thinking about these people, and there are many of them in Wisconsin that will die. The big D word, they don't understand these rich people that want all our money. He smiles. But my son will not be here. His meds are probably $4,000 a month. I kept him on my insurance until he was 26 years old. He got a kidney when he was 17. So this Affordable Care Act that we had needed to be fixed, right? We know that. But we started somewhere. We are one of the greatest nations in the world, but we don't have health care for our people. Something's wrong there when all the other nations have it. So fix it.
There has been a 35% reduction in your district, Representative Duffy, 35% reduction in the rate of uninsurance for health care since the Affordable Care Act passed. And that American Health Care Act that you were all ready to vote for would have taken away coverage from a lot of those people. It would have left your constituents worse off. Your job is not to be loyal to Mr. Trump. Your job is to do what is best for your constituents. Do your job.
CJ Long, Danbury. I want to bring the issue of healthcare back to a more personal level. I don't have a pre-existing condition. I'm quite healthy, even though I use a cane and I have this bad leg. However, I am on medication for that. When I was working, I paid $100 copay for my medication. Then it went down to $5. Then I had to retire early. I just couldn't keep up anymore with this leg. And I went on, I'm going to call it Obamacare because I want it known in history as Obamacare, so I don't care. And I was paying, I don't know what it was to start with. It was less than the copay, so it was $40-something. Now it's gone down to like $20 or $30-something copay a month. Next year, I'll be on Medicare. I don't know what it'll be. And that's where I want to bring it back to some, more personal and to something that you really can do, Representative Duffy. There is something called the Affordable Meds Act. It has a longer name, but that's the short name for it. And lots of Kaiser polls indicate that like 75% of Americans want what is in this bill. And one of the things that's in the bill is that it allows the government to do exactly what my Obamacare insurance company has been doing. They negotiate the cost of that medication so that, my copay went down quite a bit. That's what the government should be able to do with Medicare. And that's part of this bill. There are a lot of other good things in the Affordable Meds Act. And I'm asking you, Sean Duffy, if you support that act and will vote for it. And if not, why not?
Hello, I am Jennifer Holt. I am from the village of North Hudson. And it is important, I think, to state just for the record that I have not been paid by anyone to be here tonight. And in fact, I have paid this venue in order to be here tonight out of my own pocket. I just want to have you picture a moment, if you will, a San Francisco island. You can take a little ferry out to this island in the beautiful blue San Francisco Bay, and you can get out on what's called Angel Island. And you can take a tour, a historical tour of the internment camps for Japanese Americans and other quote-unquote prisoners of war or other people considered a threat to America during World War II. There were 120,000 Japanese citizens in these camps throughout California. Now, I say a history tour because it was supposed to be something that we learn from the past and we learn from our mistakes so that we can apply it to our future. So the rhetoric that is going on in this country right now from President Trump and not being pushed against by you, Congressman Duffy, is that you can, with a certain group of people, call them names, call them bad as a whole group of people. And what is that doing? I'm a teacher. It is making children concerned about their families, who are not from the various 7 or 9 countries, concerned that they are going to have to leave school, concerned about their friends. So it is bringing panic to 8-year-olds. What have we learned from history, Congressman Duffy, about going after a certain population of people? What have we learned? Now, interestingly, the Muslim ban, that's not a ban, from 7 countries did not include Saudi Arabia. The fact is that most of the terrorists in 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. And why was that country not included into the ban? Oil, Trump Hotel. Can you please confirm that? Furthermore, Trump and his group met with a Saudi Arabian group recently in the White House. Very little was on TV about that. Just why were they invited? Which would love to know more information on that too. On a different but similar topic regarding minorities, and marginalized groups of people. And looking at, in response to Planned Parenthood, one of the things that Planned Parenthood also does is serve people with transgender needs. The GBLTQT, I think I got all the letters in there, community, and people in transition. So just for your information, that is another marginalized group that does receive services. Okay, so I found this out. In 1982, I thought this was exciting. Wisconsin was the first state to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation in employment, housing, education, credit, and all public accommodations. At the time, the Republican governor was Lee Dreyfus. Do any of you remember him? Okay, excellent. Well, when he signed this into law, he said this. It is a fundamental tenet of the Republican Party that government ought not intrude in the private lives of individuals where no state purpose is served, and there is nothing more private or intimate than who you live with and who you love, and I might add, where you go to the bathroom. In February, the Trump administration rescinded the Education Department letter as well as guidance issued by the Obama administration to the nation's schools, warning them that failing to allow students to use the bathrooms matching their gender identity could cause them to lose their federal funds. I have a transgender student in my class. So this was very concerning for me and for this student, who is a human being. Watching the things go through then, defending this action, Sean Spicer recently stated that this was a state's issue. I saw that Representative Jesse Kremer from, I'm not going to say this right, Kewaskum. Thank you, Kewaskum, says he plans to reintroduce a bathroom bill, which was also introduced in 2015. It went nowhere, but he wants to reintroduce it again, although nothing's been done. So my point is, Congressman Duffy, no one seems to know where to go. But we need to make sure it comes out all right for all human beings.
The one item that hasn't been covered tonight and talked about is gerrymandering.
Yes.
Yes. The Supreme Court has ordered all the districts to be revised, and yet Wisconsin is taking a stand to fight it with the Supreme Court. Do your job and redistrict our state the way it should be.
Fairly. Well, that about wraps up our little town hall that we had tonight. We're extremely disappointed still that Sean Duffy did not come today. We all know what we need to go for in many years to come. And we understand the principles that America was founded upon apply even today, and that what we're advocating for is an extension of that. We need to keep it going at every turn that we can.